Hello, and welcome to How to Use the Web Accessibility Guide. My name is James Herndon, and I am an accessibility consultant at a company called Equal Entry. We do trainings like this, and we also do audits for accessibility on site systems, apps, VR games, and so on. And we do a lot of different work around trying to help people understand core concepts of accessibility and how, building on the core concepts, you can get most of the way there in terms of your accessibility goals. So here's what we're going to do today. We're going to start out by establishing some learning objectives for this training. We're going to spend most of our time doing a live walkthrough of the Montgomery County Web Accessibility Guide. I encourage you to follow along. Then we'll share some information about how you can get more help if what we're covering here doesn't answer your questions or if you want more information about what's in the guide. After we go through that, we'll make sure you have all the links that you need, and finally we'll wrap up with some key takeaways. So our goals today are, first, to show you where to find the Web Accessibility Guide on the county's internal site system. Second, we're going to learn how the guide connects to the new DOJ ruling for ADA Title II, which mandates web and mobile app accessibility for all state and local government entities. Third, we're going to help you understand which guidelines apply to your specific role, and how to search the guidelines by role. And then finally, how to use the guide when you're starting a new project or when an issue comes up within an existing project. So the most important thing you need to know is where to find the thing, right? So right now it is published internally and it is available at cmsinternet.mcgov.org/accessibility. You must be on the county network or connected by VPN. If you're watching this training, then presumably you are all set for access and you should be able to pull this guide up and follow along. In terms of audience focus, this training is relevant to just about everyone, whether you're a site contributor or administrator, a designer or developer, a system or social media administrator. This training is relevant to you. And the reason for that is that the standards documented in the Web Accessibility Guide have to be followed by everyone. So with that, let's switch over to the demo. When you first come to the guide, if you look past the headings, you'll notice that this page first provides a location for folks to submit an alternative format request. The page provides contact information along with a link to the form. And the other side of the page has a lot of useful contact information for people to be able to reach out to the correct county department and quickly get the information they need. We have contact information for the ADA Compliance Manager, for the Office of Human Rights, for the Office of Human Resources, and for the Department of Health and Human Services. So from there, we can look at different sections of the site, and the first one we're going to look at is Policies and Procedures. It begins with a web accessibility policy statement, which calls out Title II of the ADA, and that the county's websites play an important role in making its programs, services, activities, and facilities available to everyone. So the county is affirming its commitment to national civil rights legislation. We then have information for if anybody has any grievances related to this, all the policies and procedures. As an employee, you should know that these exist, and this is how an individual will escalate a grievance up through the county. There is also a clear exemption policy for those of you that have a site or application, something where you're like, this is great that the county wants accessibility, but for this particular thing, I don't think we can do it right now. Here are my reasons why I need an exemption. This is the documentation for how you can go through that process of requesting a formal exemption, and for where, why, and how you will be able to support individuals later on or in the meantime. You have kind of a stopgap, and it's very much clear that even if you get an exemption, which is rare, but if you do get an exemption, you still have to provide reasonable accommodations as requested. So all that information is included here. And then the final component on this page talks about violations. What happens if you don't fill out an exemption request? You're not approved for that, and you don't make changes to ensure that your site or your application is fully accessible in accordance with the county guidelines. For a violation, you'll receive a written warning from the ADA Compliance Manager, And if the accessibility issues aren't remediated within a set period of time, then the content will be removed from the county site system. Now we're going to go back to the top and we're going to select the next one, Guidelines and Standards. This section is the protein. It's where you'll find the official guidelines. So this is where we would expect most county employees to start off if they're trying to gain more information or if they're trying to refresh themselves on the standards as they start a new project. I want to take a minute to talk about the web accessibility guidelines themselves. As far as WCAG is concerned, they are broken into 4 major areas: perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust. Each of these key areas has a list of success criteria. And for each of those success criteria, we have a page dedicated to helping you understand exactly what that success criteria is, why it's important to somebody, and how to test all these different components. So there's a lot here, right? If somebody asks you, hey, you need to be totally compliant, this is what they're expecting, that you understand all of these. So what this guide does for the county is it lets you say, okay, I'm a site contributor and I'm documenting something. I'm putting it up into HTML, but mainly I'm using templates in the CMS. I'm using tools that the county has already provided to me. What do I really need to look at? Well, that's why we have this section up here where if you are, say, a site contributor, you can open this accordion for the site contributors. The page lists 4 success criteria that we expect a site contributor or a site administrator to know and be able to follow at all times. They are page titled, headings and labels, info and relationships, and meaningful sequence. After that, we have 13 success criteria for this role that we would like you to think about for your project. Are you using colored text? If so, if yes, then you need to consider the contrast minimum, and we'll be able to teach you about that one. But if you're not using color, if you're just doing purely black text on a white background, then you don't have to worry about it. So this guide gives you the tools that you need to think about for your specific project for the site, for the application that you're currently working on. Which of these 13 do you need to refresh your memory on, right? Are you using pre-recorded video with synchronized sound, aka classic video, right? If so, there are 3 success criteria that you need to keep in mind and become familiar with: captions, audio description or media alternative, and audio description only. But if you're not planning on using videos, if you're not planning on using a video with no sound, or sound with no visuals whatsoever, you don't have to worry about those. So even though the standards might seem big and overwhelming, with a lot of detail and a lot of information in them, this guide is trying to cater to your specific role and allow you to be concentrated on where you focus. So with that, I'm just going to jump into one of the success criteria so you can get a closer look at how these pages work. I'm going to select Info and Relationships and let you see for each one of these success criteria that we have a specific page, the success criteria page. It gives you the purpose, the reason why this is a success criteria, how it impacts people with disabilities. We have images and video in most cases explaining the success criteria or giving some deeper insight or meaning to help you understand why this is so important. We have example use case scenarios that may be relevant to county workers to give you a more tangible sense of how it works. If you want to just focus on, well, what do I need to do to pass? We have a section that answers that question called How to Test. This section provides information about when you run an automated accessibility checker, when you run one of these tools, these are the types of issues that you need to be looking out for, that you need to look to see if they're returning them or not. We have very specific things as far as other tools that you can use, or hey, when you're doing a manual test, when you're thinking about things, here's a list of items to consider. We also have a section for best practices, which walks you through all the different things to kind of consider and examples from the county that show you, hey, this is where it was done properly. This is where it's done right. Follow these examples that are there for you and you'll be able to replicate them. This particular one has a video that talks about the fact you can use multiple ways to communicate the same information, either through traditional HTML headings or through what we call programmatic headings or ARIA information throughout the site. We also have various code pens, and this is an example of where we want to show a positive example to you. And when we get into the other pages, we also have negative examples as well. But this kind of rendered HTML, this lets you see what it would look like for a positive example, what you would put in your document object model. The last two sections in all of these pages are a list of exceptions to be able to say, okay, if there's any exception that the W3C would grant, here's some more detail about it, some more information about why that might be or might not be used, or what other success criteria you might need to consider. And then we give you the exact references. So these represent the exact text from the W3C if you need to read it specifically. Also with Section 508, they basically specify for each one of these success criteria where it applies within Section 508. All of that information is available to you as a reference. One last thing before we move on. We're moving through the high-level stuff here, but when I come back to the How to Test section, each one of these are in fact another page to provide even more detail. So I'll just pick one of these. Programmatic heading structure does not match the visual layout. I'll select this particular one. And this will take you right into the specifics of what's the problem? How do I get a sense of what's going on here? What's an example of this problem? What would the HTML look like that's incorrect? What would it look like if I were fixing it? And what are some other possible solutions I might use? We have made pages for all of these for you to check out and spell out very clearly how to proceed. So now we'll move on to the next section of the site, which is called testing. So for those of you that get really excited about hands-on accessibility, for those of you that just want to make sure you're doing what you need to do and that you're not going to get hounded, we have some information as far as basic testing and tools that you can use to get more comfortable and familiar with accessibility. These are automated and manual tools. We strongly recommend you check out Accessibility Insights for Web. It uses the base underlying technology of AXE, that's A-X-E, which is kind of a community-sourced rules engine that gets used by accessibility professionals. So as new rules get introduced and approved by the community, Microsoft Accessibility Insights will pick that up for you. It's very graphical. I can show it to you because I have it set on my browser here. So in Chrome, I have the plugin already installed. I'll open it up. Accessibility Insights for Web. There's a 3-minute video you can look at to give you a more thorough introduction than what I'm going to quickly show you here. But if you want to do an automated check very quickly, you can just select FastPass. And on this page, Wikipedia, there are no failed instances. If there were, they would all be listed out here, and you could select them, which would highlight them on the page and show you exactly where to find them. And it would spell out exactly what you need to do to change them as well. Some of you might be familiar with Wave. That's another automated accessibility checking tool. It's available for free. You can use it. It does provide that same visual reference for where things are, but we have noticed that it does bring up some false positives, meaning it calls out something as being inaccessible when in fact it's within an ARIA-hidden. It's not being exposed to the user, or for various other reasons. They wanted to flag it as a kind of something that the developer should check, but is actually not causing a direct accessibility issue. So we do prefer Accessibility Insights, but it's up to you on which one you want to use. Some other tools you have access to are Dubot. This is a governance tool that helps notify you about any changes that are happening over time. If you file a help desk ticket, they can set up Dubot automatic scans for you and let you know when things are changing in a way that might negatively impact accessibility. And as some of you who have participated in our other trainings already know, the tools you might already be using have accessibility checkers in them. Microsoft 365 has a checker built in. You can go right up to the toolbar, go to Review, check accessibility. Adobe has one in Acrobat as well. Color contrast, there are many free tools out there. One of the tools we have here on the screen is the Color Contrast Analyzer. It does require a download. If you don't want to go through the process of getting permission to download third-party software to your county machine, try WebAIM's color contrast checker. This is built right into the website, so you don't need to download anything to use this one. But they're both great tools. In fact, I can show you how it works right here. Here's how I would use it. I would go to my foreground color picker, open it up, select the eyedropper tool. I'm going to test the contrast on these links. So I'll go up, highlight the blue, and the background is already white, so I'll close that. And I have a contrast ratio of 6.93 to 1. The requirement for WCAG AA is 4.5 to 1 or higher, so I've passed. And AA is what you need to meet for the county, so that's great. We also have a set of things to think about for content authors. You guys know your documentation, your information better than anybody. So when you're writing, when you're creating, there are sets of things to think about and make sure that you, as the natural person to own all of this and to think about it, this is a good place for that. Those of you that want to do some manual tests with these tools, we have a section here on that same testing page to walk you through some possible scenarios for that. If you have a website, what are some manual tests I might want to perform? I might want to check to see if the navigation controls are consistent or not. I want to be sure that controls with the same functionality are described consistently. If not, I could go to this page and check out how to fix it. I might want to look at my audio content to determine if there's a way to stop audio that's automatically started. Is there a way to pause, stop, or hide it, and so on. I might want to test keyboard access and make sure I can do everything on the site without using a mouse. For users with mobility disabilities, they may be restricted to keyboard-only use. So this section would give you a list of things to watch out for in that respect as well. And it'll tell you exactly what you need to press and go through to test each of the possible outcomes and what to look at. Some manual tests in your browser you might want to consider are getting the zoom supported up to 200% and making sure everything is still visible. Then review the page with high contrast settings enabled in your OS. And also, can you adjust your operating system's default font size and determine whether or not the content supports that for you? And if you're feeling uncertain about it all, you can reach out to the TEBS team, reach out to Chris Daniel, others, and they will put you in touch with someone like me or my team who can make sure that everything looks good from an expert point of view. So let's look at the next section, GIS maps and accessibility. So this GIS section is still under construction, but we are working with your maps team on making Esri and associated map tools more accessible. And this page will take you through some of the testing that can be done, what you can do in terms of map and layer creation to make it usable by a wider audience. There's an experience builder tool that explains exactly how you might approach that. In instant apps, these are some things you might want to do for accessibility. Under ArcGIS dashboards, Esri has some recommendations for ensuring accessibility through your dashboard. If you're doing story maps, this section has some recommendations. And again, if you're doing surveys, this blog post we've linked to here has some more recommendations. And this, if you come back, this page will likely be built out even more. This is something we really want to develop in order to give you and your constituents the most accessible map experience possible. Last section is need help. So we've gone through testing. What if you need a little bit more help, right? So the first need help option is this same content that was on the front page, people looking for an alternative format request. That's going to be a very common scenario for visitors of this site, but you'll notice it's exactly the same as it is on the front page of the site. We just want to make sure that this information is available for whoever is seeking it. It gives you links to submit an alternative format request. It gives you some contact information, phone and email, to get in touch with folks about that as well. We've also provided some county accessibility contact information. You can reach out to the county ADA compliance manager and the ADA office. If you want information about disability discrimination complaints, you can reach out to the Office of Human Rights. Here's their link to their site as well as their phone number. If you have any questions for human resources, you can check out this page here, the OHR Equal Employment Opportunity Compliance and Diversity Management webpage. And if you just have general questions about services for people in Montgomery County with disabilities, you can reach out to the Department of Health and Human Services Aging and Disability Services Desk. We have a standard voice number as well as a TTY number. There's also email, and there's also information online about a wide range of disability issues through the HHS page. And the page also here provides us sort of a summary reminder of everything I've already gone through with you here. What you want to do in the guide is just to go to the main page, go to the guidelines page, look down through by your role or just the specific standard you have a question about, the type of content area, and that'll point you to the best place to go. And when you have new projects, you can do the same thing. You can come through and look at the different standards and figure out what you might need to pay attention to given the type of project you're working on. You can go back to that testing page and get any tools you might need. And you also have a lot of information throughout this site about who you should reach out to if this all feels too overwhelming and unmanageable, who could give you a hand on this. If you do want more of a hand on this, you can reach out to the IT help desk. You can submit a request to that TEBS Web Solutions team. They're available for help with general support. And if you need somebody, an expert, to take a look at the site or application you have and want to make sure that you're in line with the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines 2.1 Level AA that we are now going to be held accountable to under Title II, and we'll need to meet that by April of 2026. Reach out, get some help with testing. The services are available to you. And you can also request a formal audit if you'd like something more thorough. We also have lots of additional training available for you in the ePortal. And if you need training that is not available in the portal or you can't find it, reach out to Chris Daniel or others, and you could potentially request some custom training, and they may be able to provide that for you. Finally, please indicate that your ticket should be forwarded to TEBS Web Solutions team. I want to briefly give you all some context for various accessibility issues with respect to how important a given issue might be versus whether something is a type of thing that needs to be met under the letter of the law but might not be as urgent as others. So the way you will receive results for an accessibility audit is that the issues will be ranked according to probably 4 different criteria. They'll be ranked as blocking. That means that if we have a user scenario in which somebody needs to be able to proceed through these, say, 10 steps, they are not able to go any further because of an accessibility issue. There's no workaround. So those are the most severe issues and the issues that pose the highest risk of legal action. Major issues are significant ones, but there's still a way around it often. It's a known problem, and maybe somebody can get around it even though the issue is technically a violation of the standard. Minor, it means it is technically a problem and it should be fixed, but it can be a lower priority fix compared to blocking and major, certainly, because minor issues, in most cases, there's a workaround. It's just a frustrating problem to deal with and is technically a failure to meet the standard. And then finally, some issues will be ranked as advisory, which means it might not technically be a violation of the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. However, we do recommend you fix it just from a usability best practices point of view. And we've also mentioned third-party vendor issue here because for those of you that are working with a vendor for certain tasks on your website or applications, there may be fixes that are outside of your control and you may need your vendor to fix them. For example, if you're working with a design company to build out your site system, certain issues that you find, they might be issues that you could fix, but others you might need to reach out to the vendor and say, hey, we have an accessibility auditor who found these issues. We need you to repair them. Those will be marked as a third-party issue, in the list. And if they're not, you can just let the auditor know, and they'll switch it from a client issue for the county to a third-party issue. And they'll still need to be repaired, but it'll help keep track of who is ultimately responsible for making the fix happen in what time frame. So let's end with some key takeaways here. First is that the county is committed to WCAG 2.1 Level AA as its new standard under ADA Title II. And as I mentioned briefly before, we will be accountable to meet that by April of 2026. So that includes not just the web standards, but the mobile standards as well. That's what the 2.0 to 2.1 upgrade mostly accounts for, is the types of issues somebody might encounter on mobile as well. But all of those issues are documented for you in the guide by role and also by standard type, as we looked at. Second key takeaway, this guide is a great resource and should be home base for you when you need to update existing content or build a new web page, when you need to figure out what your requirements are based on your role and how you can approach that in the CMS based on your role. You can come to the Web Accessibility Guide before you publish content just to double check and make sure you're doing it in a way that is in line with the standards we need to meet. And if you just want to ensure that you're approaching things from an accessibility first point of view, the guide's going to have all that information available to you as well. And if anything is confusing or overwhelming, reach out, get additional help, ask for an audit or some assistance, and it'll be made available to you, no problem. And that's it. Thanks so much for your time today.